Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time it is, when you hear this message, I pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. So in the last couple of days, Kevin Samuels, who was a online influencer, I guess we could say, an image consultant, as he deemed himself, he died. May he rest in eternal peace. Ashe. And Kevin Samuels is a polarizing figure. Okay. Polarizing people, some people have polarizing personalities, but what they do is they pick wedge issues. These are people who are probably well steeped in politics, right? They pick wedge issues that are going to evoke forced choices. Wedge issues are typically around stuff that are like abortion or tax law or immigration, things like that, right? These are things that evoke very strong responses from people. Either you're really for it or you're really against it. It's hard to be neutral. So Kevin Samuels is pretty adept at finding wedge issues and making people pick, like, what's your position, right? And but there's a difference between being polarizing and being divisive. Okay, there's a difference between being polarizing and being divisive. When you're divisive, you want people to, you're trying to divide and kind of conquer. You're trying to divide people or divide resources and energies to weaken either one or the other or both, right? Divisiveness separates by design and intent. Kevin Samuels is polarizing. I don't consider him a divisive person. But either way, what I mean is that I expected that, or I shouldn't say I expected, I didn't expect Kevin Samuels to die, but I'm not surprised that his death is polarizing, that there are polarizing views on his contribution as a result of, you know, the way he played his hand. The part that is troubling for me, though, is the percentage of people in our community who are celebrating the death of Kevin Samuels. There are people who are celebrating, they're rejoicing, they're like saying good riddance and, you know, stuff like this. And it's so ironic that just like, a lot of these people are women, and we're right before Mother's Day. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you're making this claim in the name of motherhood or women or something like this. But what about Kevin Samuels' mother? What about Kevin Samuels' daughter? You know, what about, you know, that's like really weird to me. It's really weird to me. But even more pointedly, I saw some memes, or I saw a meme shared a couple of different places. And this is the real, you know, crux of what I want to talk about. It's that meme of Angela Bassett, and she's in that role that she played in the whatever TV show that was, where she was a hoodoo woman. And people basically saying in the meme, Kevin Samuels pissed off the witches and they killed him. And that's problematic, right? That's problematic. And it's problematic for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a meme, right? So it's not really to be taken seriously, but you don't have the capacity to kill anybody like that. That's like, I want to really, really drive home dispelling that stupid idea. No matter how angry and how bitter and scornful you are, you 50, 20, 100, 1,000 of y'all cannot get together and kill anybody. You don't have that power, right? Number one. Number two, if you did have that power, what a loser you would be to use it in that way. What a loser. What a lowlife you would be if you actually had that capacity and you used it to kill someone as, you know, inconsequential as a guy on YouTube. That's so pathetic, you know. When you have people who are real enemies of the people, you got, you know, to black people, real enemies of Orisha. You got real enemies. You have institutions and organizations that have been around for centuries, and they are dedicated to making sure that you have fewer children, and they have worse education, and the worse health care, and worse living conditions, right? You have organizations and institutions that are hundreds of years old, whose sole, you know, reason for being is to make sure that black people do not make too many advances too fast in areas that would in any way disrupt the status quo and the distribution of wealth on the planet. You can look at a place like Nigeria alone. Nigeria is not the way it is just because the Nigerians can't get their act together. That's deliberate, because Nigeria is a powerhouse. Nigeria is a giant filled with all kinds of resources, minerals, oil, and people, brilliant people. So yes, Nigeria remains destabilized deliberately. If you had the capacity to kill someone and you didn't kill all of the people who are responsible for making sure that Nigeria and other countries throughout the African diaspora are in a constant state of turmoil, what a loser you are. What a lowlife. What a waste you are if you actually have the capacity to take life in that way. And you would use it on someone like Kevin Samuels, who gets on the internet. And by the way, he gets on the internet and the women call him. It's not like he's paying them or you know what I mean? They call. Everyone who came on Kevin Samuels' show, if they were offended, insulted, or whatever, they called one after the other, to participate in what he was doing. Which leads to a whole nother conversation, which, you know, we're not really going to have right now. The real driving point that I want to say is that the reason why we operate this way as people who practice Orisha, right? The reason why we act this way is because we still have not clarified our discernment. We're unable to discern who our true enemies are. We're not using the wisdom of Ifa and the wisdom of Orisha to get really truly clear about our identity, where we stand, who we stand with, and who we stand against. So let me give you a very simple analogy of how I see someone like Kevin Samuels or any other kind of a social influencer. Because you got lots and lots and lots of men who have positions, who are online and espousing their ideas. And you got lots and lots and lots and lots of women who are online and espousing their own ideas and giving their opinions. And if you look at it, it's all chaos. It's all chaos. It's very difficult to find any one of these so-called, you know, gender relation specialists who, you know, you can agree with 100%, right? It's, you know, it's not really my forte, but the few that I'm familiar with, there's always something that's like, just doesn't add up. Just doesn't meet the mark, so to speak. But just because you don't agree fully with what someone says doesn't make them your sworn enemy. So let's take, for example, if we were on a battlefield and there were several battalions of the army, right? And let's say two of them, one of them is on the ground. These are shield and spear battalion, right? They go into the battlefield with shields and spears. Another group of people, another battalion is bow and arrow. The bow and arrow people stay on the tower on the wall and they shoot long distance, right? Now, amongst the army, the bow and arrow people look down upon the shield and spear people because they consider them to be less sophisticated and less precise and just kind of grunts. And then the people who are the spear and shield people, you know, They don't have a tremendous amount of appreciation for the bow and arrow people because they don't actually engage in combat. They stay safe behind the wall and they shoot from a distance. And so there's this ongoing tension between these two segments of the army. And amongst themselves, it can get kind of heated. They might fight each other. They argue with one another constantly because they represent two ends of the spectrum of this single army. But no matter how much conflict there is between the shield and spear people and the bow and arrow people, when they step out onto the battlefield, they know everybody behind this wall is our people. We serve these people and we kill those people. Everybody on the other side of the battlefield are our sworn enemies. We kill them all on sight. See, you can't, that's discernment. When you have that basic understanding in place, you know that the bow and arrow people and the spear and the shield people are not enemies, even if they disagree with one another's tactics. And certainly, absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if the shield and spear people are on the battlefield and one of the soldiers falls, the bow and arrow people up on the wall, they're not rejoicing and praising the divinities and saying, yes, I knew it. I knew Ogun was going to kill the stupid spear and shield. What? What kind of a crazy are you? What kind of a crazy are you? Where you're celebrating or even in any way lightly attributing the death of one of your own to your spiritual tradition? That is not my Orisha. No, I don't care in any way, shape, or form. That's not the tradition that I practice. And that's not the tradition that I want any of my people involved in at all. Shun all that darkness. Shun that. Walk away from that. That is dirty. That is pollution. That is death. There's no future in that line of thinking that is not consistent with our tradition. The Yoruba say that the teeth and the tongue sometimes fight, but never to the death. The Yoruba say there's nothing like two friends who never fight and two opponents who never reconcile, right? The Yoruba say anger is to the flesh, but never to the bone, right? I pray with all sincerity that if you are a real, authentic practitioner of Orisha lifestyle, that you will start devoting your practice to getting super clear about who you are, where you come from, who you serve, so that you can be more discerning about who your true enemies are and how you need to align with your people, disagree peacefully, respectfully, with civilization, and put all of your interest and your true aggression where it belongs, on the enemy. Aboraboye, aboshishe.